Um, Welcome, Judy and Dugaman and Amanda. Um, my name is Larry Green, and I am from Lake Tahoe Community College, a beautiful place in California. In fact, we finally got some snow yesterday. It's just beautiful. It's all white outside. Um, and I have been teaching mathematics and statistics for a very long time and been involved in the open educational resource movement since before the name existed for open educational resources. And I've been involved in the LibreTexts movement since the beginning also, actually. I had lecture notes and they adopted my lecture notes as one of the first things they put in. Maybe 15 years ago. It's been a long time. But then since they got this big grant, we're just moving it forward and really, really working to make the OER best for our students. Instead of just saying we need a book, now it's what's the very best way our students can learn using the new environment that students are familiar with instead of the old 300-year environment. And that's my philosophy in creating materials and making sure things work, is experience the best possible for our students. And Paul, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Paul Seeburger. I'm in Rochester, New York at Monroe Community College, and I've been teaching here, since 1998. So I've been working at a number of different projects. I think Larry and I first worked together on a visualization project that I've been working on for calculus, particularly multivariable calculus. But more recently, I'm also working on LibreTexts and trying to get the open educational resource textbooks in, I guess, in a position to be adoptable by many people across the country, and improving them as we go. And showing today, I guess, the ability to customize them, to make them be exactly what you want them and need them to be for your students.
Okay, and just let you know, it's not like there's 100 of us, so if you have any questions or anything to say anytime throughout, just unmute yourself, and then we'll happy to chat with you and answer any questions you might have anytime throughout this webinar. It's not like we have this schedule and we have to stick by exactly what we're doing. We're here to discuss the best way to bring in OER for our students.
That's right. All right, well, I guess I'll begin by sharing the screen. And let's see here. So I've been using LibreTexts for several years now in my multivariable calculus class. I guess that's my other book here. And I've gone through and basically taken the OpenStax textbook that has been imported into LibreText, and I've been able to customize that to fit the presentation that I wanted to have, and to fit even the chapters and sections that I wanted it to have. I've added some sections, I've added some dynamic figures and other things, and I'm going to show you a few of those things. And there's a lot more I'd like to do with it. So it's just a fun thing to be able to add whatever I want to the books. I've also worked with or used an OER book in my Calc 2 class a couple of different times so far. And I'm now this semester using LibreTexts in my intermediate algebra and basic algebra classes as well. So I wanted to just show a little bit of what can be done. And I'm going to start in my Calc 3 book and show you a couple of things that I've done here. So there's a drop-down table of contents that anyone can access, students, or even if you want to go and follow along. You can try it out on a different computer if you have two next to each other. So I'm going to go in and actually first go to chapter 11, section 11.5, and show some dynamic figures that I was able to add to this textbook, in addition to adding some of my own material. So let's see, in this section, let me move this out of the way here. There was some material that I was able to add. Well, in this case, the dynamic figure. I go down just a little bit, there's a number of dynamic figures I've added to this section, but in this particular case, it was a line in space that was hard to see was really a three-dimensional line, so I thought it would be helpful to be able to put in a three-dimensional rotatable figure. And here you can see that the line, or the whole figure with the line in it, can be rotated, and you can then begin to talk about, you know, how that line is parallel to the vector and so forth. So that was one thing that I've been able to add to this book in a various number of places. The notation also is made more consistent, at least with what I desired. I put harpoons in bold over the vectors, made the vectors bold and put harpoons over them. Further down on this page, I was able to add a figure that was actually better than the original in the book. The original had one plane actually on top of the other one, and meant to be showing that they were intersecting, and I was able to correct the figure, but also made it rotatable. So again, showing the ability that we have to put in dynamic figures in the textbook. So leveraging the fact that we have this book online, and I guess we can print it too and get the figure, but of course it won't be rotatable on a piece of paper. So it's sort of one of the things that we want to do is show how we want to do more than just have a regular paper book in an online format, but be able to leverage the technology and do some more interesting things. Let me move, I'm going to move this out of my way here again. Let's see. So another feature that I was able to work with in this book that I'm still working to add more of are these check your understanding exercises. This is an H5P exercise that allows the student to select which vector field has positive divergence. And so you can click any one that you think might be true. Of course, try them all and see what happens when we check. And it will tell us the correct answers and the incorrect answers, give feedback and a score, if you will. This is still just in a summative format. Actually a formative format, so just showing students whether they're right or not, but it is possible as we move forward to create this in a more summative format where we can actually see the results of our students answering questions in the textbook. Below that, I have a couple of examples of WebWork problems that have been integrated in a formative way into this section of the textbook, so the students can enter their answers, as I've already done here, and check and see how they did, and it will tell them if they're right or not. They can do this in various places. So if you want to insert this in the middle of the text, we can do that. So that is something that I'm going to be moving toward and doing more of. In my Calculus 2 book, I have inserted some dynamic figures in the volumes by slicing section. So just as another example, I think there are actually 4 figures in this section, and I'll show you maybe a couple of them. Here's the first of them that you can actually see that it's the same figure, the same example as was shown in the book, and now I've got it so you can rotate the figure, the region about the x-axis. You could actually come over and rotate the solid of revolution and do a number of other things, honestly. We can put in a representative rectangle, revolve that around, move it back and forth, and see what that looks like. And even show washers and shells. So here these are washers, and we can change the number of them and then rotate those around and see how what we ended up with was very similar to the solid of revolution. So there are, again, 4 of these on this page. This is something that my CalcPlot 3D app is designed to allow people to insert, but even without the knowledge of how to do that yourself, you can leverage or take advantage of these that are in the book already. So here's an example of another one that rotates around a different line on the line y equals -2. And again, you could do washers and shells. You could, in this case, show what those look like, revolve, and demonstrate this concept in class for this example. Let's see, the other things that I want to demonstrate are in my Calculus 3 book. Let me actually go to another section, chapter 12.1, I think. Let's see here. Take me a second to open this one. All right, and in this particular section, I've added a number of subsections to the material that was here. So finding, I guess, parameterizing a piecewise path, I'll jump to that one. I inserted a figure, inserted an example, and put my own material in here to help students with a topic that I felt was not well represented in the previous commercial book I'd used, and also currently in this book that I'm customizing. So I was able to put in my own material and have it fit seamlessly with the rest of the material in this section. I've actually put several subsections into this one. So let me show you how easy it is to edit a page, because that is something important as you begin to think about customizing a book. Once you have access as an author, which we can give you, you can create a book and then be able to customize the pages. And as you can see here, my cursor is inside of basically a WYSIWYG editor. It's a lot like Word or something else, except that we can also edit the math using LaTeX, and only have to really worry about the LaTeX components for the math components. So here you can see, if you're familiar at all with the LaTeX, this is a display math line that will be centered and using display features. Here's a symbol that we've actually created called vex. It's normally vec, and that makes a vector. The vex code that we've created, a new command, puts the little harpoon over and makes it bold. So that's the command that we have there. And as we keep going, you can see that we've put some of the letters into LaTeX so as to make them look script. Right now, of course, they're not looking script, but that's what these little backslash parentheses are. This is an inline LaTeX code. And again, all we need to do is, I guess, initially learn from templates, but as you get more comfortable with it, you can just type in your LaTeX code, and the math is really easy to make look nice. Some of it looks more complicated. Here we have some aligned equations, but it ends up making it look really nice. Let's go ahead and save this, or in this case, cancel, and see what it looks like for that example 2. So here's example 2, and you can see how these are lined up equations. That was the codes we were looking at earlier there. You can see the vex symbol is given the harpoon and the bold for the R, and so forth. So this is just a couple of quick demos of some things you can do. If you're interested in customizing a text yourself, I'd be glad to show you some additional tutorial material and even do additional Zoom sessions to help teach how to customize the textbook yourself. You want to jump in, Larry?
Just a note is that the good thing about this is, although he's edited this and made it his book, it's not really his book because it's OER. And even though he didn't even know it, but my students have been using it also, because I teach calculus also along with statistics, and that's the thing, is that's what's so wonderful about OER, is we're a community. Is that we build something, and then if you like it, you use it. And that's the difference between OER and publisher material, where it's all copyrighted and you can't touch it and change it or anything. So we can all use this. And I think it's a lot better than a static textbook, and it's a whole lot better than telling students to pay $300 for it, which is what my students used to have to do just a few years ago before we moved in this direction, in the OER direction for calculus.
That's right. And a couple of things can be said there is you can use an existing book that someone else has customized, or even the original book that's on the system here for maybe OpenStax calculus. But you can also choose to customize my book or the original book yourself and then put in your own sections and so forth. And we'll show a little bit of how to do that at the end of the webinar today.
Are there any questions from any of y'all in terms of things you'd like to see or comments?
Someone put it
text
in the chat.
equations or other interactive math elements in the book accessible? So that's actually a good question, and neither of us are. I don't think you're, Paul, a complete expert in accessibility. But
Not complete expert. I learned a lot though.
Right. So here's what I did. LaTeX I think is accessible. LaTeX itself.
Yep.
The interactive activities probably are not. But here's the deal. And this is when. So I had a meeting with our disability resource specialist at my college, and the idea is, it doesn't have to be accessible as long as there's an accessible alternative for the students who need who have issues with accessibility. So one of the great things about taking an OpenStax book and modifying it in terms of the visualization is that you can always tell the students who have a visualization accessibility issue, here's plan B, and that's what we have to have. The OpenStax book is great for you who has, needs a screen reader and can't necessarily deal with the full interactive visualizations. At least that's what I was told by our person.
The WebWork interactive problems are all web accessible because of the MathJax that's been incorporated to both of them, and actually MathJax is also used in LibreTexts, and the MathJax is better than just normal LaTeX. It really has been designed for accessibility. So certainly the textbooks themselves are very accessible in terms of screen readers, being able to read through the math as well as the regular text components. So I guess in terms of figures and any other components that we add for visual help, there's alt tags that we're adding and continuing to work at. It is certainly a situation where it's in progress. I know that some of them have good alt tags and other things don't. Some things are figures that really need to be converted to LaTeX or using MathJax. So in a few of the places in my algebra book, for example. But that is all work that is being done as we're moving forward and continuing to go through and do first pass, second pass through these books. So it's certainly better than your average regular textbook that's just sitting there on the desk. It will actually be readable. A screen reader will read it to a student if they want to. So it's free, and I guess there may be paid for options for getting screen readers to read paid for textbooks too. But this is a pretty good setup already. And I think it satisfies a lot of the requirements of accessibility as a textbook already.
Right, we're doing everything we can where it can be accessible to make it accessible. Some of the things where, the student grabs and moves a slider, and then that's never gonna be perfectly accessible because it's a dynamic figure. But again, as long as you have a plan B for those kind of things and don't require that they have to use a dynamic figure to, for the class, is that they can have it without the dynamic figure, then that's fine too.
I see a question from Jessica Kwong that about my version, whether if you customize my book, whether when I update mine, whether yours will be updated too. And that is an interesting question. I guess ideally, as I recommend people customize books, mine or others that are in the LibreTexts bookshelves. I recommend beginning with the transcluded or mirrored version, which would indeed update when the original is changed or updated. And then as you choose to customize a certain section, you would then fork that page and make it editable like you saw my page was when I gave the demo there. That one was forked and was my own custom version of that page. But whenever possible, I keep mine linked to the original book so that any typos I might find are correct. Once I fix them in the original, I don't have to fix them again in my version. So there really is some benefit there. But it's a lot of fun when you begin to then fork a page and then make it look like you want it to. So I know Larry has done something a little different with his book. I think he's forked it all immediately and customized from the start. But I prefer to do that section by section. So one other thing I was going to mention on my book, I was able to add a whole new section. This is a section on Taylor polynomials of functions of two variables that wasn't in the OpenStax book. And I was able to put in my notes and make it look consistent with the rest of the chapter and put in my own figures. I think further down here, I've got some rotatable figures that fit here in terms of Taylor polynomials of a function of two variables, getting the first degree being the tangent plane, second degree being a quadratic best fit polynomial. And I showed a couple of examples of that. And then below that, I was able to actually incorporate higher degree Taylor polynomials of a function of two variables, something that I'd written up but never seen really anywhere else. And so it was a lot of fun to be able to put this out there and publish it, if you will, in a format that I can share with my students and then share with other people. And I even created exercises or an exercise set to go along with this, even this component where you've got higher degree than second degree Taylor polynomials of a function of two variables. So again, this was a full section I created and customized. There are other places like I showed earlier that I've just added subsections. And there's a lot of places I'd like to customize that I have not yet done so. So it's a matter of first pass going through, fixing typos that might be there from the OpenStax book, making it look like I wanted to. And second pass going through adding new material that needs to be there for my pedagogy, for my presentation. And then trying to get figures that might be benefited by making them dynamic and rotatable, and adding those in. So another pass that I'd like to do is to put in the interactive exercises and creating some more of the H5P figures that I showed earlier to help students interact more with the text. And I think that's probably a good segue to what Larry has done, because Larry has done a lot of work in that area with his book and statistics.
Okay, so if I'm going to be doing mine, Paul, you need to unshare the desktop so that I can share my desktop.
There you go.
Thanks. And let me share mine. There we go. Okay, so here is, so I think can you all see this, hopefully? Paul, can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Oh, good. Just want to make sure. Okay, so here is the statistics page. And what I did is very similar to Paul, is I started with the OpenStax book. And in the OpenStax book, it was a well-written book. Barbara Lowski wrote it, but there were some things I wanted to change. Some were just small things, but then there were some major items. So because I wanted to adjust something on pretty much every page. And that is, my philosophy is that we're not in the 18th century anymore. Is that we are at the point where students can learn not just by reading something. They can learn by interacting, they can learn by watching and listening, and they can learn by exploring. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to say, look, let's take the 18th century book, which is just a flat version of a book with some pictures and that's it. And let's put in as many things as we can that students really will learn from. And also in my past experience is that we have this book in the 18th century book, I like to call it, and the students, they never read it. Okay, I'd say not even 10% will read the book. And maybe your experience is different, but I actually asked my students and that's what I found out. No one reads it. So I think it's because we're in the 18th century. So what I want to do is move to the present time. So what I did is I copied the OpenStax book, and then because I wanted to truly redo the whole book, I made it so that all of it was editable. Okay, the issue with that is that if they find a mistake, and if you find a mistake in the OpenStax book, then they have to actually go fix it here too. That's the only problem with that. But I really wanted to kind of start over in terms of embedding everything. So if we go, I'll just pick one of these topics. How about regression analysis? So if you go to regression analysis, and let's say we go to, let me go to the regression equation. That's something that we all teach in statistics. I think that's standard. So here is the OpenStax book, and it starts out like you expect, is just a book. Okay, and this is literally just the OpenStax book. But then when you scroll down a little more, now there's a video. And this is an embedded video. So if they click it, this is a video on the regression line. This is a video I made, and it actually sits on YouTube, but because it's an embedded video, to them, it is in the book. And that way, as they're reading the book, they can also have multimedia within the book. Okay, the other thing that, there are lots of things, but one of the other things I wanted to do is with statistics, a big part of it is dealing with data, exploring the data, and seeing what happens. And one way of seeing it is the book's old version, where they give you an example, they give you the numbers, and here it is. It's a flat screen. Okay, and yeah, it's a pretty picture. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to allow students to do their own. So this is all within the book, and they can put in, I don't know, 3, 1, and plot point. And there we go. Okay, it shows the data. Not much yet, because with 1 point, it's pretty hard to do regression analysis. So then you could do, I don't know, -2, 3. And now we have the regression line, which is just a line, also with 2 points, not that interesting. But then it gets more interesting if you say put in, let's say, 1, -1. Oops. And now all of a sudden, they get to see regression analysis happen. And what happens in this is that it shows the data points that were put in. It shows the equation of the regression line. It shows R and R squared. And it shows a scatter plot, and it shows the graph of the line. And students can enter their own data and make it happen within the textbook. So they don't have to leave to explore. It's right in there. And to me, that's how it should be, is that we shouldn't be separating the book versus, say, interactive activities versus videos. It should be an experience where they're learning with all the different possible learning tools within their textbook, if we call it a textbook. I don't know if that's if it's the right word anymore for my vision of where we should be going. So then again, you're back to the book with more exercises. And then I had some fun. So, and I don't have too many of these because they take creativity. I got to find some more. If you have ideas, give me some more. So this is a shoot down money at the correct correlation game. So what happens here is that if I hit start, then we have a goal, and it says our goal is -0.2. And what I need to do is I need to get a correlation of -0.2. So what they're going to do is they're going to shoot $1, and then they're going to shoot some more every time it costs them $1. So it's like a game. That's the whole point. Okay, and here we go. I'm at -1. I didn't win yet. And the idea is it gives them something to do that's more than just reading or whatever. They can actually play. By the way, I'm not as good as I could be. R is 0.99. I better make it not so perfect. Except I missed, and that happens again. I'm not the best at, I'm a better programmer than I am at creating, making video games happen. And they keep going, and then if they can get within 0.1 of the goal, then they win the game, they get 50 bucks, okay? 50 virtual dollars, of course. I don't really give them any money. But here's the deal, is after I programmed this, I had my students play the game, and I watched them. And within 15 minutes, they all completely understood what correlation was all about. Okay, they got that you need to have things go downwards if you have a negative correlation. If it's close to 0.9, then that means it's really struggling. They get it because this is the way, especially our millennial students, are used to doing things. So what I want to do is create a lot more games. I have a few already in different sections. And if any of you have ideas for games, let me know, I'll make it. These games don't just happen. There's a lot of coding. This is tough. So if you're a coder, you can make your own game too. But again, I warn you, that's tough. But what you can do is you can embed these games directly into whatever you're using, okay? Or the videos, or the scatter plot regression line equations, etc., and all those other things. And what I did to make it easier for people who want to use this is I created a site that has all of the explorations and games that I created. And this is a moving target. My hope is that I'll have more as I come up with more ideas. So this now, we're not in the book anymore. This allows you to take whatever book you're using and embed a calculator or a game or an activity or a visualization. So for example, let me show you a visualization idea. So here's discover the central limit theorem activity. And this, again, right now, this stands alone, but I have it in my book. But I want to show you that you can grab this, put it in your book, okay, in the LibreText. So the idea here, this is again, discover the central limit theorem. You can go, let's say you want a skewed left distribution, choose n equals 25. And it just picked 10,000 random collections of samples of 25. And then the students can see that, hey, it's not that far from being normal. Okay, on the other hand, if you use n equals 2, then it's pretty far from being normal. And they can they can see the central limit theorem happen. And again, you can embed this right into the book so that it's not just reading a book, but there's full explorations involved in this. So this is one of the activities. Let me show you another one because I've done a lot of these activities. So let's go to, let me find. This one. So this is an exploration where it does confidence intervals. And what you can do is you can adjust the sample size, adjust the confidence level, and you can see a bunch of samples that were produced with sample size 18 right here at a 78% confidence interval. And the idea is that students can see that, hey, about 78% of them or so capture the true population mean. So it's another exploration. Students learn a lot from explorations, whereas if they just read a paragraph about it, I don't know if it sticks in their memory as well, okay? What I have not done, by the way, is collected full data or done is analysis. I just write the programs. But you're welcome to collect data if you want to see that. And then another example. Let me find one. here's looking at the normal versus a binomial distribution. So they can change n, and they can change p, and they can see how good an estimate the normal distribution is of the binomial distribution. So if we let n be really small, you'll notice then the estimate's not that great. Okay, and if p is far from 0.5, it's really bad. And so the idea here is, again, my philosophy is it's a lot better for students to have these visualization opportunities than to just tell them to go read a book, because that's not how our students do things anymore. At least that's my feeling. And as I mentioned, if we go back, it is not that hard with the LibreTexts tool to say, well, I like, you know, number 1, 2, 3, but I didn't really like number 4. I like number 5 and 6, etc. I want to put them in different sections, and you could do that. So you could take any OER book and you can pop these visualizations and explorations and games into that OER book using a LibreTexts tool. And I will make an offer for you. I'll help you do it. Okay. I see a question, just a minute. Paul, did you read through it? It looks long.
I was just making a statement to the same thing you were just stating verbally. So let's see.
Yeah, it's a very long one. So I'll let you read it and I'll keep talking a little bit.
Yep,
So again, so I have these, and right now there are, I don't know, 40 something of them. I got 43 done. No, sorry, 44 done. And if you have any ideas or if you have any needs, I'll make it happen. I'm a programmer, so I wouldn't say I can program everything, but I can program anything reasonable. I can pop it in, and LibreTexts has a really nice tool actually for coding using JavaScript. So that's what I do that. So here's a question that's short. I could quickly read it. I'm letting Paul read the long one. Can you directly link these in Canvas? And the answer is absolutely yes. So the idea here, let me just show you. Let's go to, I don't know, the ANOVA calculator and just making one up. So this is a ANOVA calculator up to 8 different categories. And all you do is you copy the URL, you go to Canvas, which I use Canvas also. You go to your modules or wherever you want to pop it. And then you can go in, I don't know, how about my midterm exam week was last week? You just add, and you can add a link. You can also embed it in. You can embed it in a page or add a link, however you want. So external URL, pop in the link, and then go. I'm not going to add these. This is a live class. I don't want to add things to my live class randomly, but it's not very hard. And that's how you do it. So you can definitely directly link it into Canvas without too much of a difficulty. Okay.
All right. I can jump in and try to answer Apurva's question.
Oh, great.
The big question is, what other platforms have we investigated as we were considering whether or not to use LibreTexts? And I'd say that Pretext is one that I've looked at. A number of my friends that create OER materials in mathematics have used Pretext, and it's got some advantages, I suppose, in that you put it on your own server, but it's a lot harder to code for the average person, and sort of like editing an HTML document instead of using a WYSIWYG editor like we have in LibreTexts. It's a little bit harder, well, quite a bit harder to share and to, I guess, allow others to customize your work in the Pretext system. So that's just one other system I've looked at and used to some degree. I've actually used it to create a help manual for my CalcPlot 3D visualization tool. So I was trying to give it a full trial run. Lumen Learning is another platform that a number of my colleagues have used, and it is similar in a number of ways, I suppose, to LibreTexts. The one big difference that has made me, I guess, stay clear of it initially, at least for this time, is that it requires basically a contract of sorts with our school, and it requires some support, if you will, for the contracts that keep it available for us. And so my goal is to try to use all open materials that are fully free, and LibreTexts is in that category of being fully free. So that has been one of the big reasons I've gone to in that direction. But I also found that from those I've talked with that use Lumen, they're not always fully satisfied with the platform. And I think some of them have been really interested in maybe even moving over to LibreText from Lumen and from their experience there. Another thing I'd say is that there are more available books in LibreText, in that LibreText platform, than there were when I was looking at it last year anyway, in the Lumen platform. And of course, anything that's there can be brought into LibreText. Any open educational resource that allows itself to be customized can be brought into LibreText and customized in this environment. You can add your own materials. I think, give it a test drive and see what you think. But for us, I know for myself anyway, I found it to be a great place to really feel the ability to create and customize these books in a way that really is exciting, where I couldn't see that being very doable in pretext, not as easy to do anyway. And the Lumen system, again, had a couple of features that were keeping me from it. One was the cost. The other was that it just seemed harder to have it be shareable like the LibreText system is. So I think it may not be, maybe that may not be fully true, but that just was my perception.
Yeah, something I like about LibreText is the director of LibreText is Delmar Larson, and his favorite word is yes. So whenever I ask him, hey, can I put this kind of thing in, or can you get your team to grab this whole book and put it into LibreText, it happens. It's not in an hour, but it always happens. There are some clunky things about LibreText, but that's true of any platform. But the good thing is that it is funded by a $5 million grant right now. So there is money to make things happen. He has a support team that is of students actually, and they will go grab, if you want a favorite OER book and you want it in LibreText, he'll make it happen. He'll take that OER book and he'll move the whole thing into LibreText, and then you can do what you want with it. And then what you can do is you can take, let's say you're using a different statistics book instead of OpenStax. You could take that other statistics book, you can email me or Delmar, either way, and we will put it into LibreText as long as it's OER, because that's what OER is all about. And then you can take that book that's your favorite book and then incorporate some of these activities or your favorite videos or whatever it might be into the book that's your favorite book, so it could be actually your style of book. Kind of another example of something I did, just drove me crazy, is that in the OpenStax book, they used EBA and some other things for the error, margin of error. And I like E. And what's good about LibreText is you can just take the book. I took all the EBAs and made them E's. And it wasn't very hard to do. And now I've got my own customized book with E's instead of EBA. So if there's something you don't like in a book, just write what you want to write. And then it works and your students get that instead. So that's a good thing about LibreText, is that's actually pretty easy to do. I don't know if you feel the same way, Paul, but that's been my experience.
Yeah, I love the ability to customize and just do what we want with them. So I was answering a question there that Apurva had posted as well. So so I can jump in and maybe show the remix.
Yeah,
option.
this might be a good time. Let me unshare my desktop. And now it's all yours.
Okay, so in LibreTexts, once you are signed up as an author, editor, you'll have a banner up here above the regular part of the page that will have edit on it, which is what I showed earlier. It has new for creating a new page, remixer, which is what I'm going to show you now, downloads, which allows you to download a PDF of full books or sections, options allow you to copy a page and other things, and so forth. But I'm going to show you the remixer next, and I've already got it open here so that you don't have to wait for it. We can either create a new remix or edit remix. I'm going to just focus on creating a new remix right now. Essentially what a remix is a customized version of a textbook. So we could say we want to create a book called Calculus 3, and then it comes down here as something. We could put a number or name in front of it if we want, like Math 212. That's the course number for my Calculus 3, and that gets added to the name of the book down below here. Initially, it's put into a sandbox, which is just a construction area. Won't be visible to the public until we publish it from there, but that's what I'm going to do. It uses a default mode of copy transclude, which is what I mentioned earlier. It mirrors the text. So these will be sort of links back to the old book, but they'll have your chapter and section numbers on them. So it'll look like it's exactly the way you want it, even if you have things that are from different books mixed in. So we can pick something from the bookshelf or from the courses area. I'm going to pick something from the bookshelf here, go to Calculus, and then maybe pick from the OpenStax Calculus book. And then we can come down and find the chapters we'd like to bring over. Now, depending on whether we want the chapters to start at chapter 11 or chapter 1, we have to think about that before we drag things over. I guess we could show you what happens here. If I bring over vectors in space right now and put it underneath the title, it is set right now to be chapter 12. So I've turned off the auto number up here that is usually turned on, I think. If you have an auto number turned on, you can force it to start at a certain place. That will update all the numbers of the sections and the chapters as you insert new things. That can be great if you're doing something where you really just want things all to be put into a normal order. But I sometimes like my own control, so I'll leave it off as I have right now. If I turn it on, there are some auto number options. Here, it's initially starting at chapter 1. That's, I guess, the most important thing. I'm gonna, actually, I think one other thing that's there is the initial topic number, which OpenStax often has a sort of an intro page, and so I often have that set to 0 so that it sets that up as 0. Now, reset that now that I open this up as chapter 1 and sort of put everything in order. You got section 1E exercises at the end. This one is set up in a way different than my book, in that the exercises are all together in one section. In my book, I've broken those apart so that they're with each of the sections in the chapter. So personally, if it were up to me, I've had several people who have customized my book, and that is what I would start with recommending. Is if you want to take a look at that, you could do that initially. So we can then grab another chapter, put it in underneath that one, sets it up as chapter 2, pull another one in here, put it underneath that one, that will become chapter 3. And once we have the book looking like we want it to, again, we could bring something in from another book if we wanted, maybe a different version of calculus, bring it in. You can even create your own empty pages at this point. If you know you've got a section you'd like to insert, we could do that. Once we're ready, we click publish, and it comes up with a page which tells us how many pages will be copied and other things, I guess. These are all transcluded because I chose to do it that way. And I'm going to then click publish, and it will generate a list of these as it creates the remix book, and just takes a couple minutes sometimes, but here we just got 3 chapters, but you can see the transcluded pages, tells you the names. And if we then eventually click on it once it finishes, and the second chapter now, third chapter coming. Looks like it's done, import complete. Now I can click on your new text right here. There's a link to it. And so it'll open the new textbook up, and it has these 3 chapters in it. And right now it's in my sandbox, but you can open the little chapter contents. We could go into a section of it. And right now, this has got a little fork symbol showing that this is transcluded. You only see that when you're editing, logged in as an editor, but that tells us that if we were to edit this page, it's just a link to the other book. But if you look here, it's got my section number with the example. So example 141, because this is my chapter 1, section 4. And so everything looks coherent as this book I've created. If I come up here and edit the page, I'll show you what that looks like. We see this content reuse with a path that shows where it's coming from. And if I find a typo here, I have to actually go to that original page, fix the typo there. If I fix the typo on the original page, it will, when I refresh this page, also be fixed on this content reuse page. And of course, something that I sometimes do actually is I want to just reuse a particular element like Larry's elements, or I want to reuse maybe a certain section and insert it later on. You can always do that when you have a page that you're editing by coming up here to the elements and content reuse, and then it lets you navigate through the various pages in the bookshelves, and you can reuse something from either a whole page or a figure or some interactive element in the middle of another page you're creating instead of a larger book you're creating. There's a lot more to this process that we could go through, and I've created a series of tutorials if you're interested in seeing how to create examples and other things from the template list if you want to edit pages and so forth on your own. And I'd be glad to share that information with you if you are interested. So with that, maybe we should open up for other questions.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Go ahead.
I can hear you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Fawzi Baroud from Beirut, Lebanon.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, for the info. Let me start my video just one second. I don't know if
Yeah, we can see you.
you can see me.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I am the assistant vice president at a private university for information technology. It's called Notre Dame University. And I've been advocating for OER since 2014 now. And recently I was appointed the UNESCO chair for OER in Lebanon and the MENA region. My question, and we have a culture of openness at the university, and especially at the MAR department. We have a couple of professors at the university doing good work. My question is, do you think there is a way that we can collaborate, like a video conference in the future? I set up a meeting with you so that, we can exchange idea with our math professor at the university. They're doing good things too. This is my question.
Yeah, certainly. That would be fun.
Yeah, I'd be happy to collaborate.
Great.
And by the way, the link that you used is my personal, I don't know if it's personal, but my work Zoom link. So we can always use this tool that we're using right now to collaborate.
Great. Shall I write down my email so that you'll drop me an email? We'll exchange emails later on to see how we can set up this. It will be great, to exchange, especially, like if we're planning to do some kind of, like joint research, what's happening here about our students, all those things, between our university, our professor and yours. Do you think it's a good idea too?
I mean, it's possible. We were very interested in discussing ways that you can use LibreTexts in your work with the OER books. We'd be interested in helping facilitate development. If you want to put materials on the LibreText libraries, that might be, I don't know if your students are learning in English or in another language, but
no, it's English. It's English, yeah.
Oh, good. That makes it a lot easier for us.
That does make it easy.
And I popped my email in the chat box. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Do you have my email? It's just my name, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
So now you have my email, and then if you send me an email, then I have your email, and then and that'll work just fine.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Huh?
You're welcome.
Yeah. No, I always like collaborating. That's always a very rewarding experience.
Yeah, and you can check my website, like it's oerlab.org.
Why don't you type in the chat box so we can see it?
Yeah, I will write it down. Yeah. I will send it to everyone. Yeah.
Are there other questions?
No, thank you. Huh? Thank you very much.
How about from the rest of you? Any questions? We're always happy to help. And I also want to put out the offer that anybody who wants, assistance, you're not on your own on this. I'll be happy to Zoom chat with you and walk you through, your personal moving into a customized LibreText book or any questions you've got. It's not like over at the end of this webinar and then you'll never hear from me again. I'm always happy to help out.
Let me unshare my screen here. Let's see. Oh, not seeing it. Oh, there it is. So were there any other questions from anyone else?
Yeah, we're always happy to answer questions.
Hi, Paul.
Yes, Jessica, good to have you on the call.
Nice to see you again. So I have a question. Which DPQ book do you use?
What was the question again?
Which differential equations book do you use?
I use the Trench textbook, which happens to have a pretty good version in LibreText right now. The only thing that's not there are the student solutions, and I still link my students out to the PDF student solutions that's online.
It's interesting because I use the same book and we've never talked to each other about it.
And it's on there now. I also use the Jury Labels book, which is in pretext, and so I link my students to that version currently. They have a version of it in LibreText as well, but I'm waiting for them to import the latest edition before I start customizing it.
Yeah, so we also use Labels book. I'm not crazy about the book, but it's easier for the student to read the textbook. But what I noticed with the LibreText version is, you know how the original books, all of the 100+ questions come with solution. So if you click on the 100+ question, there is a pop-up screen, and then you could see the solution right away. However, the version inside LibreText, all of the solutions are gone.
Yeah, well, the LibreText version of Jury Labels book is not the latest version. And because it's not the latest version, we haven't really been working at updating it until we get the latest version. So that is one of the issues is always with OER materials. If they're not in the platform where the author is working on them actively, we have to, I guess, take a snapshot of them at some point and then move them forward and try to, edit them and make them what we want them to be. But Jerry Label is using Pretext right now, I think, to edit that book. And we're working with the people at Pretext, actually, to create some kind of an automatic process to import those books. It may not automatically update them, though, because any changes we make in the meantime would get zeroed out by that. So basically, it's one of those situations where we have to import at some point and then improve from there. And we are waiting to get the latest of Jerry Label's book. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, the Trench book is pretty good right now in LibreText, and it's in a position that I'm going to hope to maybe in the next year begin to customize it in areas that I really wanted to make some changes. Some of the notation I want.
We didn't choose Trench's book because it only had the PDF version. Now it's in LibreText. I have to go in and take a look.
Yeah, take a look at it. I've got a version of it on my MCC basically the bookshelf in the courses area. If you go to Monroe Community College, you can see the version that I've remixed for my course, and it's mostly there and all set. But it's also on the bookshelves. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jessica.
Yeah, nice to hear from you again, Jessica.
Are there any other questions here as we get close to wrapping up? I'd be glad to stick around if people have questions that they want to ask, even as it ends here.
And if you think of a question another day, I put my email up there and you can always email me too. And I'll be happy to answer or work with you or whatever.
I'll add my email too. Thanks, Junie. Feel free to ask us any questions you have.
Yeah, and this will be recorded, put in my YouTube channel, and then we'll post it out in different places, I guess.
It looks like a few people have logged off already, but yeah, glad to have everyone who's still here. And if you have any further questions, we're still here if you want to hop on, but let us know.